Computer. Hello, everyone. It's the 13th of March, 2024, and I could not be more excited, seriously. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time. For some reason, the 13th of March is that special day. I wanted to do it on the 1st of January, 2024. But like a lot of things, we just wait for everything to be perfect. And just things didn't align at that time. I've got somewhere in London. I'm based at Somerset House, and the training courses have really kicked off since last October. Dallas is here. He came to one of the first, and a few of you on the 26th of October. It's just been so exciting to meet you all. And then we start doing videos. Some of you have very successfully continued with a video, like Victoria, but some of you just maybe just forget it. And what I would say is that such an energy and excitement in the room about media, about what we're doing, and how we all have a say, how we all have our own channels, how we build our brand, how we write press releases, how we connect with traditional media. So we all did the training, and then we didn't stay in touch. And I think it's so important because it's the start of your journey, really. I think when you come to a workshop, you get a taste, a flavor for how easy it is to create professional content very quickly and to grow your channels, whatever your purpose is. So it's about creating a community where we kind of really important that we provide each other with feedback, support, and advice. And it's very, very powerful as well in terms of networking. If we see something we really like, we can comment on it and share and like it. Because a lot of the time, I see people get really excited after the workshop, create these beautiful videos, and then they put them out on their channels, and they don't get the engagement. It just nothing happens. So we can encourage each other in terms of just adding a few more people. Thank you for joining. We're recording for the new participants. So it's really exciting to have a community. Now, what is a community? I think it's important that it's not the Anna Breeze show. So, I have been training since 2017. I've learned about, worked as a journalist, a presenter, then I understood business. I've been running a business. But I had an opportunity really to have a podcast, to have the Anna Breeze show. Some of you may have followed me from 2020 to 2022, but I just didn't feel comfortable. Something didn't feel right. A bit like the big shows we're seeing now. We're seeing Piers Morgan saying, "I'm on YouTube. No one's watching the telly anymore." Dan Wootton, who's left GB News, they all start a channel. I could have done that, but I really wanted to focus on training and to hear all voices. Now we all have this opportunity. I think it's very, very magical that we're in a position to be able to do that. So we've got what I plan to do over the next hour. So what I'm going to do is put together a spreadsheet so each of you know who you are, your name, your email address, what you do, where you live, just some basics. So all the people who are in the community so far get to know who each other is. And also, I'd like to sort of create a core committee of individuals who are experts in the media, because I might not be able to do this every week. I'm hoping to do it every Wednesday. But if I'm not available, or if I'm poorly, or if it's just for experts, people like Dallas and Keith and Graham, people who are experts in the media who might be able to help. So what I'm going to do is shut up quite soon. So I'm just going to, what's the community going to be about? I've mentioned a few things about supporting each other, giving advice and feedback. And there's people with skills here that I just don't have. Dallas runs presenting workshops, so he can show you how to be more confident and comfortable on camera. But what's been interesting is some people are really confident and comfortable on camera, like I am, but I'm really, really bad if I had to speak in front of lots of people. Dallas said he was at the Albert Hall, I think. I could not do that. I just wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it. I would, and I wouldn't be any good either. I'd be really nervous. So Dallas does that.
You'd be absolutely fine. You would, honestly.
The psychologists the lecturers I taught last Friday, they had the exact opposite problem, which was fascinating. So they talk to hundreds of students, and they're really relaxed, and they walk around and very animated. But when they're talking to camera, they just can't be themselves, and they can't feel natural. So that's something I can't do training in that, Dallas, and I know you can. We've got Graham here as well. Hopefully, Graham. He's going to talk about press releases. So one of the members, Caddy Thomas, got on ITV this morning, and me and Caddy tried to put together a press release, sent it to ITV this morning, and it worked. But I don't really know how to write a press release. So Graham's going to help with things like that. He's a journalist based up in Leicester. We're going to find out more in a minute. Then we've got Keith Shamaret. Have I said that right, Keith?
Yeah, you got it right. Thank you.
So Keith Where there, Keith, I've written it down here. Global head of strategy he was the former, his last employed role, so he's self-employed now, working with a lot of startups. Um, he is he was the former global head of strategy for WPP, which was the world's largest advertising and marketing group. So he understands a lot about marketing and advertising. And so these are the different skills and lots more that we've got in the group. What I would say is it's about making a difference. It's about having fun, but at the very heart of it is sort of courage and compassion. And I've really seen things changing with the media. I think it's really shaping things up. You might be thinking, well, what is this for me? Is this about marketing? Is this about journalism? I think at the very heart of it, it's about building trust. I think we're going into a very strange period here at the moment with media and AI. But it's about not if you're here because you want to grow your platform to be rich or famous, it's not gonna feel right. This is about making a difference. Keith, you describe it. You can talk about this well. You've got the lingo.
Yeah, hi there, and hi everyone. Great to meet everyone. Unfortunately, I'm going to dash in a few minutes, but yeah, no.
Could you introduce yourself if you've got
said,
a dash, Keith? We'll come to you first. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, as Anna said, look, I've Keith Shamrat of over 20 years of advertising and marketing and sort of business consultancy, and that's kind of growing brands and businesses from the ground up. And Anna and I have spoken a bit about the possibility of supporting the group and the community here around things like building your brand, whether it's around your business or around your personal brand, which is about getting under the skin of what drives your purpose and why the hell you're doing what you're doing, whether it is citizen journalism or some form of activism in some shape or form, or just getting out a really important message that you're really passionate about. So look, there's some stuff that be great to cover around that. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past has really had storytelling at the heart of it, and frankly, great stories are really what drive engagement. So yeah, there are a few areas, and then actually really thinking about how you develop a sort of a stream of ideas which are both relevant and going to be resonant to your audiences, and then actually thinking about how you grow your audiences. So those are the kind of topics that hopefully I might be able to offer some advice on around those. But yeah, no, great to meet everyone, and thank you for inviting me, Anna.
Thank you. You're in Soho. You've got a meeting at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
You haven't got quite a time for very quick questions. Anyone got any questions for Keith before he goes?
Do you have a website?
That's a really good question. Funnily enough, I've been somewhat under the radar. Most of my work has come via recommendation, but strangely enough, I finally decided to put my head above the parapet, and this will be coming in the next week or two.
Okay.
Can we all mute just because when the person speaks, unless you're asking a question, because it goes straight to the camera changes. Marcello, thank you. So I'm going to go to, I know Marcello's got to get off as well. So Marcello, oh my goodness, what an amazing man. Wait there, it's on Paul for a second. Wait there, I'm just going to spotlight. So Marcello Mega has joined the call. I get a lot of people contacting me via Twitter by direct message. You're really passionate. They've got a story. Victoria's one, and Marcello is the person I go to. Old school journalist. I worked at the Sunday Times in the investigative department. Is now at the Herald, and he's been fantastic actually in terms of I'm connected with Q's on the call with a lot of whistleblowers, and people with really important stories. So he helped somebody I know called Jan Cruikshank, who was raped by a senior colleague, and she ended up losing her job. What happened with Jan is she came on a course, she did some videos, it went viral on Twitter, and Marcello Mega picked up the story, and it ended up being on the front page of the paper in Scotland, and she ended up getting an apology and a £50,000 payout. So the media can make a real difference, massive difference, but it was really with the help and understanding of a national media brand. And Marcello put a lot of work into that. And the interview that I've done with Marcello about that and really what's happening in the world of investigative journalism is on my YouTube channel. So Marcello, thank you very much for joining us. Could you just introduce yourself? And if we've got time, a few questions, but I know you've got to get off soon.
Yeah, no bother. Yeah, I'm 58. I've been a journalist for 35 years. Worked for the Scotsman, the Sunday Times, freelanced for 22 years. It was actually the record I worked for last year. It may be when we last spoke, Anna. And since then I've gone back freelancing because after 22 years it was quite difficult to be told what to do all the time, and I didn't like the way that some things were going. But the mainstream media, which I'm part of, I mean, you guys will, or a lot, you certainly, Anna, and probably a lot of people here will understand using social media much better than I do, because with I've always had a foot or both feet in the sort of the mainstream media. So when I'm looking at a story, I'm always looking at how would I get that published, or how would I get that broadcast. I don't really think about my own channel, or putting things out there myself, partly because some of what I do is quite legally complex, and I have been told by my wife that I've not to risk the family home or anything like that. So I think there's a lot of people out there who use social media really, really well, who get really important things aired, and who get stories out there that the mainstream media wouldn't touch. So I'm quite glad I'm getting near the end of my career, because I think that it's that the world has changed significantly, and I have to learn and adapt if I want to keep making a difference. And I do. That's sort of one of the things that gives me a buzz. But I've probably got as much to learn from you, Anna, and possibly other people here, as anyone would have to learn from me in terms of how the mainstream media works. So that's why I was interested just to come in and say hello. Although I've got to be off by about 11:30, so I'm actually working for someone else today. So I'm taking an early break to join you.
Thank you very much, Marcello. You understand the media, and you understand how people can approach media publications with stories as well, because and like you say, legally delicate. You explained that in the interview that I did with you. It can be quite challenging when you're a whistleblower, and we've got someone here who I would describe as that, somebody who really spoke out for the sake of others. And what happens a lot of the time is you end up losing your job, don't you? And really suffering for it. So has anyone got any questions? I mean, that's a different type of journalism, isn't it, Marcello? When you're dealing with those sensitive situations, and they take a lot of your time to research, to make sure that they get past the kind of the standard that needs to be passed for it to be broadcast.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, one of the first things I have to do when I start dealing with someone new who has got a story to tell, particularly if it is along the sort of the whistleblower type area. I mean, I know it's going to be difficult anyway, but obviously one of the first things I have to do is to test their story to some extent, to make sure that they can back up what they're saying. I mean, some people tell me, I mean, I had a case a couple of weeks ago of a guy who came in with information about a charity that he suggested was being run along fairly dodgy lines, and there were financial irregularities. But he didn't tell me that he was a fairly recent past employee, and he had been got rid of. Now, it may be that there was probably a halfway house between his position and the charity's position, but the fact that he hadn't told me initially was obviously, a mark down in terms of accepting what he was telling me. And then, I had to speak to outside agencies who knew a bit about the organisation, and it turned out that on balance, his main thing was that he had a personal beef, and he was trying to use me as a means of disrupting the charity and its work. And sometimes, previous employees, you mentioned Jan, I mean, obviously, often previous employees have got very good grounds to want to go to war with their previous employer. But in this case, I thought that his motives were questionable. The stuff that he was claiming about the organisation didn't stack up. When I approached them for comment, they were not defensive. They were quite open. They didn't know that I was dealing with him, although I think they must have suspected it. And it turned out that he had gone to other people before, so I wasn't the first journalist to go and ask questions. So you do have to be sure before you go into full battle mode that you can back up what people are telling you.
So, but do you know one of the biggest problems I have, Marcello, is people don't even know how to find good investigative journalists, how to approach the. I mean, you've got big investigative teams at Telegraph and the Times, I believe, and also Channel 4. But how do you approach them? Do you find them on Twitter? I think that's some of the questions and things that I would like to get you back to discuss with everyone, because there's so much that I don't understand. Anyone got any questions before we move on? Because we've got four people. What I want to do is just introduce four sort of the media experts, and then um, I'd like everyone to introduce themselves. And I know we've only got an hour. So any questions for Marcello? Or you can put them on the chat if you like. I'm just very grateful that I found you. And I said that good journalists are like builders. There are not many around. There aren't many around. But you know, the way you handled Jan's situation and how you got justice, that was very, very hard, a lot of hard work for both of you. And you got there, and it was just beautiful and incredible. So thank you for that.
Can I ask a question quickly?
Yeah.
Marcello, I wish I'd been able to contact you when I was working for the NHS, because there was no one was interested in the fact that we weren't taking a lot of calls during 2020, and there was numerous things that were coming up. I'm not getting too much detail, but I wish I had. I mean, was there anybody trying to cover anything about any alternative stories for to challenge the narrative? Because I'm in Mount Florida at the minute, and I remember one of the journalists with a camera, and all he was doing was videoing people like clapping at windows, and he seemed quite content with that. And that was a full horizon of his interest.
I know we really got to focus on the process of the media, but if you've just got a couple of minutes, Marcello, because I want to make sure that we get through everyone to answer that question.
It's difficult to sort of speak for others, or to speak for something as wide as the mainstream media. I mean, people have different approaches, but what I have noticed, and I think that partly it is down to the fact that alternative stories do get covered on social media. There does seem to be a bit of a wave of difference in terms of there's one or two journalism websites, and I've started subscribing to the Byline Times, and I've also been in touch with them to see whether I might be able to do some work for them in Scotland. And the Byline Times basically is it's made up of people who have worked in the mainstream media, but who have got fed up with the controls exerted by the tycoons who own all the mainstream titles, and their aim is to cover stories that might not get covered otherwise. So it's sort of developing. There are, if you have concerns about something that you know about and you can't get the Herald or the Record or whoever interested, you can email or publications like the Byline Times or Private Eye. Private Eye does quite a lot of things. I mean, obviously, Private Eye is a satirical magazine, and they might take a sort of a slightly jocular approach. It can often be about how people have acted to try and cover up a story. But at the same time, they tend to get the story out, so they might be taking the mickey out of NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, but they'll do it in a way that also reveals what Greater Glasgow and Clyde, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde wanted to keep quiet. So that there are places that you can go, but it's not easy, because there are so many people, I think, probably getting. I mean, I know that I am contacted by more people than I can feasibly deal with. So I assume that however many messages I get, publications must get tens or dozens or hundreds of times as many. So I'm not sure about filtering processes and what have you. I'm not sure whether anyone sits and decides, or whether there are just certain buzzwords that catch someone's attention. It's not easy to get noticed, and that's why I think actually doing it your own way, doing it making effective use of social media. If you know how to use YouTube, and I don't, I've never really bothered finding out about these things. Probably something that I should do. But there are ways to get your voice heard, but you do have to be, I think, reasonably careful that you don't land yourself in trouble. Make sure that you don't identify people who you're accusing of things, make sure that you can back up whatever you say, because even if you're not laying yourself open to being sued, because you're not identifying people, you can lose credibility if what you're saying can demonstrably be shown not to be correct. So there are definitely ways to reach out and get your message heard. But I don't want to mislead anyone by saying it's easy to get hold of people in the mainstream media and get them to look into your cases.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, Marcello. And there's so many questions. I know Victoria has been approaching journalists. She's had Private Eye contact her. They were hassling you, weren't they, Victoria? And I'd love to know more about Private Eye, because I believe there's a lot of freelancers there. So, are they going to look after me? How are they going to handle my story? What if I change my mind, or I want certain details taken out? So I worked in newspapers for a brief period, and a lot of people would say, yeah, I'll talk to you, but I want to see the article before it's published. So there's so much around this, isn't there? There are so many elements to journalism, but we're going to move on now. So thank you so much. I know we've got, that's the kind of investigative journalism side, and the amount of experience Marcello has, and he knows all the different media brands and has so many fantastic contacts. But he also understands media law, and like we said, so many people can get into trouble with things like defamation and copyright. Paul has been going to some courses there, subsidised by the National Union of Journalists Training Wales. They've been fantastic, haven't they, Paul? And they also have free resources on copyright and defamation. So there's a lot to learn. We're all content creators. We're all having a go at journalism. A lot of journalists wouldn't like the fact that we're all journalists, but unfortunately, there's not a huge amount you can do about it now. And that's really exciting. So thank you ever so much, Marcello. I'm going to come to Dallas next, and then if he's available, and then go over to Graham, because you're the media guys. And then we're going to have an introduction to everyone, so we get to know who everyone is. Because even though I've met you all, some of you haven't met each other. Dallas, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right then. So Dallas, could you introduce yourself and what you do, and how you may feel that you'd be able to help the community?
I'm Dallas Campbell. I'm a television presenter mainly. I worked for the BBC Science Unit and have done for the last sort of 15 years or so. I used to present a science show called Bango's Theory on BBC One. I do lots of big science and engineering documentaries. So I worked for BBC, I've worked for Nat Geo, I've worked for Discovery. So my whole life really pretty much has been spent in front of the camera or standing on a stage. I actually trained as an actor many, many years ago and worked as an actor. But then I got distracted by factual television, and I went to America in the sort of late 1990s, and I ended up writing TV shows for the Discovery Channel, and I ended up presenting TV shows for the Discovery Channel. Then I came back to the UK, but I also help people with kind of presenting, whatever it is, whether it's you've got to do a TED talk or a best man speech, or you've got a job interview, whatever it is. I'm a great believer of your success in life, whatever it is that you do, will be determined by your ability to speak and to write, more so than the quality of your ideas, which sounds ridiculous, but it's kind of true. So I help people. I work a lot with academics, actually. My main thing that I do is people who've got too much information and just want to kind of get it all out there. I help people structure things and make it palatable. And I also, I work one-to-one helping people speak better, and with some degree of success. I don't really advertise much because there's a million kind of people out there doing courses, and it's like, you can be a brilliant speaker, da, 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 da. So I like to keep, sometimes I work with groups. Mainly I work kind of one-to-one. Basically, I'm a kind of presenter therapist. Becoming a better presenter isn't really learning a new collection of skills, as it is about removing the blocks that stop you from having an authentic connection with an audience. So I work with people. So if anyone wants help.
Thank you, Dallas. Somebody else has just said you look like Alan Cumming. Marcello, I said you look like him, didn't I?
Alan Cumming, yeah.
Yeah.
People say that to Alan Cummings all the time.
Listen, I got a question for you, and anyone else, put them in the chat. What do you think of first of all, what do you think of reading from an auto cue? So we've got the teleprompter at Big View, and we've got the teleprompter on CapCut, which we look at other course. What do you think about reading a script? What do you think about writing your own script? And what do you think about AI writing your scripts?
It all depends. It's context, like anything, it's context dependent. I did a series, a long-term series for Nat Geo called Science of Stupid. It was a kind of comedy science show. It was really fun. And all my job was to kind of do the link. So it'd be me talking to camera, doing the link, and then cut to whatever the thing was. And that was auto cue because it was a very specific written show. If you are doing, for example, a speech at your old school on the prize giving day, and you've got 15 minutes and you want to be very specific, then writing a script is fine. And writing a script is a really useful thing. Understanding how to write a speech like that is a really useful thing. If you look at any great speech, Kennedy, John F. Kennedy's famous 1961 Rice Stadium, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade," written by a guy called Ted Sorensen, probably the greatest speechwriter of all time. It's a skill. However, if you're giving a TED talk or you're doing a presentation to camera and you want to engage, or a podcast, you don't want to write. You don't want to physically write, and then learn it and then try and remember it. Because otherwise it just becomes a lesson in memory retention. If you ever watch Dragon's Den, for example, I'm sure many people will have watched Dragon's Den. It's a really good example. The people who come a cropper are the people who are so nervous. I've got to say everything about my company, and they'll write everything down, and then they'll try and learn it. And then they'll get up on stage and they'll be nervous and they'll forget everything and it all just falls apart. Good.
What I was going to say is fear, isn't it? I was in Double Dare. Do anyone remember that? Going live on Saturday morning, and I was asked to I really cocked up this really simple question. It was so embarrassing because I was scared. How do you deal with fear?
Well, that's it. I'll tell you.
You just stop thinking when you're scared.
First of all, you don't want to get rid of fear. Fear's great. Fear's a really good motivator. It's a great motivator for deadlines. It's like, oh fuck, I've got to do my talk next week. Fear is great. And also fear is good because it means it's whatever you're doing is of value and it's important, and you're never going to get rid of fear. I still get nervous. I've been doing it my entire life. I'm no less nervous doing it now than I was when I started. I just got used to it, and I just understand how it works, and I understand how audiences work. I understand what audiences want, and I understand the difference between what I think audiences want and what audiences actually want, which is.
You don't like the AI presenters. The AI presenters you can add now.
Yeah, I've been using. I think they're quite fun because you can get them to say rude words and things. So that's always quite amusing.
My daughter's been playing around with that on Alexa recently. You've got a question.
AI is just another tool. Or if you think about who it is that you like watching on television, who do you like watching on television? I like watching Anthony Bourdain, the chef who sadly killed himself a couple of years ago. Brilliant. People like David Attenborough, people like listening to Barack Obama. The people who you like watching, they're good because they're just authentic. They don't.
It's really interesting. What I would say is about yourself and Marcello and the other people in part of this group is you've got time for people. So a lot of people, I'm on the TV, or I'm an investigative journalist. I work for the Times, and they don't have time for people, and you feel that. And I think what this group is all about is being available to each other to share our skills, because you have been doing this for so many years. I don't know what makes a good presenter. I've got a question here.
Yeah, you do know what makes a good presenter. Everyone does.
Give us a good example. Have you seen it in the chat? So what if you saw a presenter in action in a generic context? What would you be looking for in the performance for you to think, yes, this is a really good example of presenting?
I tell you what I'd be looking for. I wouldn't be looking for a performance. That's the point. If you look at an actor, for example, so I trained as an actor. I spent 3 years at drama school. What do we learn in 3 years at drama school? We learn how not to act. That is the point. Good acting is not acting. If you're acting, then you're not acting. And so what you have to do in 3 years, because the natural tendency when someone says action is to do something. And actually it's the opposite of that. It's being bien dans sa peau, as the French say, being comfortable in your own skin, where you have the confidence not to put on a performance. I mean, there is a bit of performance, obviously, and there are mechanics, and we can go to that. But generally, the people you like watching, whether it's a politician or an actor or they're just they're at ease with themselves. They're not performing. They're not doing too much, and it should be invisible. A good presenter, the presenting should be invisible, and if it's not, then you've got to fix it. It's exactly the same with acting. All you do in drama school is learn how not to act. less, do less, do less, do less. And so, and it's about being authentic. And if you're not authentic, we can all see, that's the point. But actually
It's just likability, yeah.
Being authentic is difficult for everyone, because we feel like, oh shit, I've got to do, or the people will want to know this fact that I know, and then it just becomes unwatchable.
I've got
I help people be authentic. That's what I do.
Dallas, a question from Hugh. Dallas, can you expand please on what the audience wants? Is this generic or is it very much context specific?
Well, yeah, it is context specific, I suppose. If you're going to see, a political speech, for example, that's a very different thing than sort of watching, your favorite podcaster doing a thing. So it depends on the situation. If you're at some big political rally with some important point, but so everything's different. But the one thing everything has in common, whether it's a political speech or a podcast or a stand-up comedy routine or a best man speech or a eulogy at someone's funeral, is that it's authentic. And there are things that you can do to encourage that. Just things like basically slowing down. My main note when I work with people is just slow down. Slow down to an what feels like an uncomfortable pace. And when you slow down and you're not fearful of pauses, and you give time for ideas to breathe, and you really have thought about what your ideas are that you want to talk about, and you've got things in the right order. So basically you give yourself imagine the kind of talk as a kind of a rickety bridge and you're nervous to step on it. But if you've given yourself handholds, not obsessively, but you've got a structure, an A to B, where you're going to start, roughly where you're going to aim in the middle and roughly where the end is. As long as you've got that and just trust yourself
this is fantastic. I could talk to you for ages. We don't have any more. Sorry.
You'll have a superpower.
We don't have any more questions on the chat, but I've got a question. A lot of people are doing podcasts.
I don't have the chat open. So how do I do that?
I'm reading it here, I think. I remember going to a presentation by a published sociologist, Kazi says, who I admired, and she read her scripted presentation verbatim. It was awful. Yes, that's when somebody's just reading out and you're like, well, what? A robot could do that, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But here's the thing, though. You go listen to John F. Kennedy at Rice Stadium in 1961 going, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade." It's one of the great speeches. It's great. And he's reading it. So it's great. But so it sort of depends. Being a great speaker, you know it when you see it. It's like, fuck, that was great. Or, but it's all about that, making a connection with the audience, an authentic connection. That's your only job. You've got one job. How you get there, there's all kinds of things we can talk about and try and experiment and see if that works and and let's take your speech and put that and put it back. Someone like Ted Sorensen, who wrote all Kennedy's speeches, Kennedy would be lost without Ted Sorensen. Ted Sorensen was a raving alcoholic, an absolute lunatic. But he was probably the greatest political speechwriter of all time.
I was really shocked when I found out politicians didn't write their own speeches. I was very disappointed with that.
Well, some of them do. I actually have a copy of that speech. And if you look at it, it's typed out. It's got Kennedy's annotations in it. So you can see, Kennedy's gone through and he's added, why don't we, asterisks, and he put a little joke in there and that kind of stuff. So it's not like they don't write it, but it's, you don't do your own plumbing. It's not like a sign of weakness because you don't do your own plumbing.
What a strange comparison. No, I don't know. If you're a politician, I'm voting for you. I want to hear your words.
It's not a strange comparison, because understanding how to write a story and how to write a speech is like plumbing. There are ways that it works and ways that it doesn't work. It's not just like some amorphous thing. You can learn if you understand story structure, then it's a bit like plumbing. You understand that pipe gets connected to that and that gets connected to that. And understanding story structure is something that can be learned and honed and worked on and improved and practiced and that kind of thing.
Alice, it's been fantastic to have you. I hope you stay on the call. Thank you for sharing.
I'll stay on. I'm doing some gentle housework whilst I listen. But if people do want to get in touch, if people want help, it is kind of a bit like being in therapy. I tend to, we have this thing in screenwriting which is called kill your babies, which is the thing that you like most about your speech, the thing that you want to hang on to the most, the thing that you love in your thing you've written, is generally the thing that's probably going to have to get cut out because it's probably holding you back.
How interesting. And a lot of people are doing podcasts now as well. So I'd love to talk to you about that, because I see people and the questions are great, but they're lacking. There's just something in terms of the energy at the beginning. So when I do interviews, I try and put on a lot of energy and bring people in, but everyone's having a go at podcasts. I want to have a podcast competition. Everyone to have a little go. I would love to do stuff like that. And I think you'd be fantastic in giving people some direction.
Well, I have a podcast series called Patented, so you can go and listen to it.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now I'm going to come to Graham, and then we're going to have introductions. So is Graham available to talk?
Yes, I'm here.
Graham, you're coming to the workshop next week, aren't you?
I am looking forward to it, yes.
Fantastic. Give us an introduction. I asked you, I'm going to spotlight you and Sarah. Replace spotlight. I asked you, what's a good, because I'm trying to write press releases, but I've never worked in PR. So I used to get press releases and think, this is dreadful. I've got to try and turn this into something. So tell us about who you are and a little bit about how you may be able to contribute to the group.
Yeah, I've been in journalism for 40 years now, and I've worked in big city regional papers, freelance for the nationals as well. But what I've kind of done now is gone back to my roots a little bit, and I do hyperlocal journalism in my hometown and the neighbouring town. For a company called Nub News, if anyone's heard of that. We've got towns and websites all over the country. And that's very, very sort of, it's a new thing for me, because it's kind of what I started out doing years ago, but I've kind of come full circle. And now I write stories about my hometown. And it's quite sort of rewarding, really, because although you kind of think it might be boring, it's anything but, because I treat my town as if I were talking about Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester, and you'd be amazed how many stories are out there and how many stories just don't get covered by the regional press as it is today. There was a time when the big city newspapers used to stretch out to towns like this, and they no longer do in many ways. And that's kind of where we come in. And we've had a fantastic reaction. They've been going about 4.5 years. And it's we've uncovered stories that maybe would never have seen the light of day. Mainly planning stories, that kind of thing, you know, sort of which people are incredibly interested in. And they really want to know what's going on their own doorstep. And I try and tell them that.
What do you think about the rise in citizen journalism? And because I ran a Penarth SMTV, it was a TV channel on Facebook, local, hyper local, just like you, really, really super local. Yeah. And it's incredible. Just agree with you, the amount of stories. And there's so many things that are going on that, like you said, the older regional press used to cover that don't anymore. It's the same with TV. They merged the Central News West and East Midlands. You know, yeah. The paper where I grew up, they've just got rid of it. There was a new edition. So you need journalism, don't you? Because it kind of uncovers corruption and injustice and abuse, etc. So a citizen journalists need a bit of help, though, don't they? Have you got many in your patch?
No, not at all. Although we do encourage people to send us stories, and we get that. People will write their own stories, send them into us, and then we'll edit them. But I mean, I think the danger with citizen journalism, of course, is that the big one is press law. People, you know, if people think they can just take a mobile phone and tell people what's going on in their own towns and libel somebody, then I think you've got a problem there. So, I mean, we see it in sport as well, where, you know, football fans set up their own websites. And again, it's almost like carte blanche to say what they like about people, but so I think there needs to be some kind of control, and you know, we try and do that. Obviously, we stick to the media law of, you know, not doing anything that's legally wrong. But yeah,
but you're a journalist, you know what you're doing, and you've obviously been to college and you've learned all about the risks, because you can play it safe. And I did when I ran a local news. I just put lovely community stories, upbeat, really fun stuff. because I didn't want to get involved in that, because you're putting yourself at risk, aren't you, if you're going into doing some sort of investigative stories. And we do have people here that this would be relevant to. But at the same time, I think people have a lot to learn from you, Graham, in terms of how to market themselves, because I know lots of people on Facebook and they just push adverts and they boost adverts on Facebook and no one really engages. But when you're attached to a story, if you're storytelling, then you get the engagement you get, I mean, I've seen a hyperlocal really work, and you've seen it work as well.
Yeah.
Anyone got any questions for Graham or anything else to add, Graham, before we move on? We've only got 17 minutes left. And Marcello's gone. I'm really looking forward to meeting you next week, Graham. It is next week, isn't it? You're coming to the workshop.
Next Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. Really looking forward to it. Right, guys, I want to know who you are. So we've got, I'd say a minute each. Sorry, about 60 seconds. So I'm just going to come along, ask you all to introduce yourself, and connect. You know, I do business networking like this, and it's a really fantastic way for us all to connect with each other, because a name in a WhatsApp group, it doesn't really mean anything. So it's bringing you all to life. So I'm just going to remove the spotlight. Graham, thanks ever so much for joining us. I'm going to go over to Victoria now.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and I'm doing a little protest this year, and that's how I met Anna, because she answered one of my shitty press releases.
It was good.
So she's really helped me kind of get traction, get it off the ground a bit, and then I went to one of her courses, and really I've kind of got to make little videos constantly, and that's what I'm really interested in, and lots of ideas.
You're based in Cheltenham, yeah. Well, thank you ever so much. And we'll go over to Paul now. We'll come back to you if you've got time. Paul.
Hello there, everyone. Paul McMahon. I work for GTFM. Currently, my journalistic experience involves covering the local Bowls and Skittles League. So it's kind of starting out as not as glamorous as everybody else. But yeah, I've been doing radio for a bit. I think it's great. Also got a background in education and about to join the NUJ as of yesterday. Hey, that's me.
Thank you very much. Over to Emma Sweeney. Oh, we got to unmute you, Emma.
Yes, there we are. Can you hear me? Hello. My name's Emma. I'm a nutritional therapist based in Kent, near Tunbridge Wells. I did Anna's course back in November, I think, in London, which was brilliant. Connected with some great people. It was a really positive experience. And I got to know Anna during COVID, when we were just sort of trying to connect with people that we had that had sort of similar views and concerns and worries. But yeah, and I tend to use Instagram for my business. I find it a really nice platform, quite a friendly environment. But I'm also on Twitter. But I like learning and expanding my knowledge of how to sort of market myself on these platforms.
Thank you so much. That's brilliant. Welcome to the group. And over to Geraldine now.
Hi. It says Geraldine, but I'm known as Jerry to my friends, so I'll have to change that. I'm based in South Wales. I'm a yoga teacher and homeopath. I've attended 2 of Anna's brilliant courses, and I'm always really enthusiastic and fired up, and then I do nothing about it. It's lack of confidence. I've released a few videos, but I've taken them down then. So I'm here to hopefully give me that kickstart again to actually do something about it and produce some engaging content. Yeah, I've got lots of ideas, and I have done some public speaking, and recently I've been on the local hospital radio, and everyone loved it, but I wasn't on film then. That's the difficulty I have.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Really welcome. And it, like you say, the feedback of 80% of people is, I just need some confidence and support to push after the workshop to start doing video and get some, comments and shares and feedback. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Felina. Felina, can you hear us?
Yes. I've just taken myself off mute. Yes. Well, I do palmistry and healing read cards and read photographs and things. I've been doing this for the last, I don't know, full time, getting up over 30 years. And I came to Anna. Well, I've been following Anna on since 1920, since the COVID broke out. And I first of all contacted Anna because I wanted to know how to make a video to put on my own website, because I was tired of paying people a lot of money to so do, and I found it very much easier if I could actually do it myself. And Anna's persuading me to try and build up my work through TikTok, because I'm needing to get what I do out there in a way that my website's not quite doing, even though it's a very good website. I think that's me in a nutshell.
We're having fun with TikTok, aren't we? It's really interesting getting, there's another client of mine down at Littlehampton. I'm still learning a lot about TikTok. It is a huge amount to learn all these different platforms. Thank you, Felina. Going to move to Debbie and Alex.
Hi, I'm Debbie Williams. I'm NLP trainer, hypnotherapist. I've got over like 30 products. I've got a website that YouTube channel, which I've not really done anything for the last few years. Main thing that I'm here is to support my son. He wrote a book when he was 9, The Secret Spell to Spelling, which is like an NLP based thing of chunking words down. And now he's 19 and looking at building like online courses with that. Also, he's got an interest in journalism. He loves Birmingham City, and we've got a friend who owns the second biggest fan-based website. And I think with Alex, it's just having the encouragement really and the confidence. And my dad always made me want to be an entrepreneur, and that's what I want to do for my son, because you're in control of your own life then really. And if you do work for other people and it don't work out, you can go bye, which I have done on quite a few occasions. And Alex, do you want to say something?
Well, yeah, so I'm Alex, and I think basically my mum's pretty much just said it all there.
Which you did,
There's
you
quite a
did
lot.
tell me to,
There's
didn't
quite a
you?
lot she's gone through there. So yeah, I'm a student, and I'm just here to learn a little bit more.
Well, I loved your videos that you did on the after the workshop, Alex. I remember that. I think it was a lager or something. It was really good, and you were really, really good and relaxed in camera, very authentic, as we were talking about with Dallas. Who else have we got here? Can we move over to Kazzy? Hi, Kazzy. Thank you, guys.
Hello. Hiya. I'm Kazzy. I'm currently sitting in Swansea University. I'm a final year PhD student. I've got a few little businesses, a tattoo studio, dressmaking and alterations, independent social work. And I did Anna's course over a year ago, I think January, February last year, and I am obsessed with making videos. I've got a YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram. I make random videos wherever I go. And I'm now about to, I hope, start a little community TV service, because I live in Pembrokeshire, which is beautiful. And I've tried to do things in the community before, like a community market, and get promotion for our area. And it hasn't worked. So I'm going to try and start Fresh East TV.
Amazing. That's really exciting. Wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm loving your videos. You shared PG Tips video competition as well, which was great, which we had a go at my last workshop last Friday. Paul, are you free to speak now? Thank you, Kazzy.
Yeah. Hiya, everyone. Yeah, I came down to London for a pint with Lena and Anna, and in between I managed to squeeze in some training. And I just wanted to kind of sort of keep that feeling, meeting new people, hearing about people's ideas, to keep generating that, and in my own sort of, I don't like using the word journey. It's a bit cliche, but I guess that's what it is. I do music, and so I'm quite resistant to sort of like I was going to say self-development, to self-promotion, but it might be something I'm to put more of a focus on. So using CapCut and what have you, for when I go into the studio, when I'm releasing music, it's just going to be useful, a useful tool to learn. Yeah, but just hearing about everybody else's like adventures and ideas and skills, because I don't just do music. You know, I'm quite opinionated, but I don't have a platform. I usually just end up talking to myself in the pub. But,
Thank you, Paul. Isn't it interesting? You've mentioned the self-promotion thing. These are the words I keep hearing over and over again: confidence, self-promotion. And you know, when I do a video, I'm thinking, oh, who do you think she is? Is she a narcissist? Why does she keep going on about herself all the time?
Yeah.
It's just like me. And I agree, because it's the people that aren't don't self-promote are the ones that we want to hear from more, I think. But thank you, Paul. I don't know what we're hopefully. I've got a call at 12. Hoping to get you all a deal on this fantastic AI video app. So I know I've got to go through everyone really quite quickly now. Alison, are you available to chat?
I can talk. Yep. Hi. I found a loophole in Companies House that's enabling fraud on a massive scale, and it's being abused by a lot of the people who are actually in positions of control. So I've been writing due diligence reports with all of the evidence, and I've been publishing that on Substack. But I really need to do some videos and show people in Companies House and talk, and I still haven't worked out how to do it.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. And I remember you were on the same workshop as Dallas, and such a fantastic group of people with really diverse interests. But at the heart of it all is about the media, and it's about important issues and making a difference in people's lives, which is what you're working on, Alison. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'll make sure that we share your blog. I know you've got a Substack, haven't you? But predominantly, this is a video. It's a video media kind of community. Over to Judith. Hi, great to have you here, Judith.
Hi, Anna. Yes, I'm Judith. I have been on a couple of Anna's courses and I still haven't done any videos. I'm moving house in 3.5 weeks, so I'm somewhat distracted. But I have reached out to Anna and I'm going to do a day with Anna, basically to kind of get moving. I think I'm not bad in a kind of interview situation, but I'm not not entirely comfortable talking to camera on my own yet. And I like to actually spend the day with Anna to getting some recordings done. I'm executive coach and leadership trainer, but I've done lots of training and work on kind of mental fitness and managing emotions, dealing with stress, anxiety, and that kind of stuff. And I kind of want to pivot quite a lot of my work in that direction, both from a teen perspective and kind of young adult perspective, but also in the corporate space. There's so much to do in the space of mental fitness that is just entirely neglected really at the moment. So I need to get out there on social media a lot more than I have been.
Okay, we can definitely help you with that, Judith. It's wonderful to see you. I love your background. Isn't that pretty? The colour that you're wearing, you know, how it goes with the flowers in the background and the light.
Thank you.
But you're backlit, and you know what else I said about being backlit?
I know, and I'm not normally, but it's warmer in here than it is in the other room.
Excuses. Judith is a very cool lady, and it's absolutely a delight to have you. You're fun. You're all fun. You're all good fun. I make you dance, don't I? I'm going to make you dance again as well. I haven't got time to show you the video I started already today. Hugh, over to you. Lovely to see you, Judith.
Hi, I'm Hugh. I'm a clinical scientist. I worked in the NHS for 30 years. I was sacked after telling hospital managers about areas of poor practice. So I became a whistleblower for doing my job. An employment tribunal confirmed I'd been unfairly dismissed, but the legislation is very weak and ineffective. I lost my career, but I've met many others who've had similar experiences, and I really understand the need for whistleblower voice to be heard. So that's really why I'm here.
Hugh, you're an incredible person, and you've introduced me to Justice for Doctors, and there's so many very high-profile cases that I'm connecting you with Marcello and also a contact of mine at Telegraph. And this is people like you are really is what's going to make the world a better place for our kids. People like you, Hugh, and it's not right that you should suffer for what you do in speaking out. So it's an absolute delight and pleasure to have you in the group. Thank you, Hugh. And finally, Heather, I think that's it. Is there anyone else we finish on Heather?
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah, I've just got an electrician here. I'm Heather Day, and I did a couple of days with Anna in January. Loved it. Still need to put more videos out. I'm a coach and an international trainer. And I've got a new unique process that I train people to use, and I use with clients. And I want to get that out there. And my main area could be like limiting beliefs. So what's stopping us from moving forward? So I can really work with and help people with that. And I had this idea, which I've not mentioned, it's getting an article in Psychology's magazine. I really want to get something in there. And if there's someone who could help me do that in the community, that would be fabulous. It might be you, Anna, it might be someone else, but that's been on the cards for a long time. And it's been one of those ideas I put on the back burner. And I want to get more videos on LinkedIn, and I need to just get on with it.
Oh, Heather, it's wonderful to have you here. I mean, there's so much I would like to know more about how you approach documentary makers, publications. You know, what is a commissioning editor? There's so much that we've got to learn here, and it's just exciting. I cannot tell you how excited it is to have. I met you all, but some of you haven't met each other. But we're getting a feel, I think, for what this group's all about. I hope you're as excited as I am. And I've got to go because I've got to speak to the lady on. I'm hoping to get you a good deal on another app. Any questions before we finish? Have you enjoyed it? Yay!
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
That was
Anna.
great. Thank you,
Really
Anna.
good. Right. You
Good
take
to meet
care,
everybody.
everyone. Get chatting on the WhatsApp group, sharing your ideas and feedback and support. And we've got a lot to learn. We've got a lot to learn, but we're going to get there. All right. You take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.